Well, hello. Welcome back to this week's Soul Search Sunday with Johnny Tiger. The date is July 26, 2020, and it has been a very busy day. I basically spent my entire Sunday cleaning the house, doing laundry. In another word, I spent the entire Sunday doing what my father would refer to as things that a real man would never have to do. Now, whether you think that is a very sexist comment, or if you agree with it or disagree with it, that have no bearing really on today's topic. Earlier this week, I read an article titled Three Most Valuable Lessons I Learned from My Father. It was on the Fatherly newsletter, and it was a rather interesting article to read. And after I read it, I started thinking that it would make a very good Soul Search Sunday topic. For those of you who have been following the Johnny Tiger progress for a while, you know that my relationship with my parents has never been what you would say close. In fact, me and my father had uh, always had kind of a adversarial or animosity kind of relationship going on between us. As my mother so pointedly say one time, she said, it's probably a good thing that you don't live with your parents because I can see that you and your father would probably murder each other within a couple of months. In many ways, we are too similar to each other. Me and my father, we're too similar for either of us to want to give ground or apologize or concede. And in other ways, we are too different to ever really agree or understand each other. But be that as it may, some people may be surprised to hear that my father has, in his own way, tutored me and taught me many, many things that I know to do. I know how to do a lot of the uh, belief systems that I follow today. I understand that for the majority of the Johnny Tiger project, you hear about how my father was a strict and violent and womanizing kind of character. But in his own way, he has tried to teach me, despite me being blind and partially deaf. He actually taught me a lot more than my mother ever did or ever tried to. Someone very dear to my heart once made a comment that my mother treated me like her favorite puppy. When she was bored, when she wanted to see me, she would get me to hang out with her, take me shopping, buy me toys, make me happy. But as soon as things got complicated, As soon as she was tired or she was busy, then she would shunt me aside and would tell me to go talk to my brothers or go talk to my babysitters or my nanny. In another word, my mom was more interested in how I could entertain her than how she could educate me. My father, on the other hand, had a lot of very, very strict rules, very high expectation, and he did not let my disability stand in the way. He often said to me, he said, "You being blind, all that means is you will have to work twice as hard or three times harder than anyone else. So you might as well start now." My father was the one who taught me how to tie my own shoelaces when I was a child. He was the one who taught me how to cook my first food item, fried egg. Uh, Fried egg and instant noodle, the only two things that my father know how to make. The only two things he ever cooked for himself, and he taught me how to do both. He taught me how to dress to look nice. He taught me how to have dinner table etiquette, how to sit properly, how to uh, arrange utensils properly. He taught me how to cut my own steak. He taught me how to comb my hair to look uh, presentable. But of course, from a person such as my father, while you learn a lot of good things, there are a lot of really questionable things that he tried to teach me as well. But that's not our focus today. Today's focus is the three most valuable lessons I ever learned from my father. This man, whom for half of my life I saw as my enemy, and for the other half, I either felt fear or spite or pity toward him. The three most valuable lessons that this man, who I feared so much as a child, this person who terrorized everyone in the family, three of the most valuable things this person had ever taught me and are a big part of what made me the person I am today. When I was in elementary school and high school, I was not very good at music. I was not very good at sports. I was not very good with hardly anything. Well, I mean, a lot of these I became good with halfway through high school or at the later part of high school. But for most of my early young childhood and early puberty, I was not very remarkable except for two things. I was extremely good as a storyteller. Anytime there's a story writing or storytelling competition in school, I would be the champion. I was so popular as a storyteller that uh, students and teachers and even students from other classrooms would try to corner me during lunchtime or recess period and try to get another uh, uh, chapter out of the story I'm telling them. And I didn't even need to have written them down and memorized them. I was extremely good. Uh, I was able to make story up on the fly and make them good and makes them sensible, understandable, and exciting. I had a very rich imagination, and on top of that, my nanny, Maru, who took care of me through most of my childhood, was very big on introducing me to stories. Read stories to me every day before I went to bed, and we would discuss the merit of those stories, the good and evil, the politics, the religion. So I had a very rich imagination. The other thing that I was extremely good at, and this one not so popular, not so popular for my friends, uh, not so uh, liked by my friends, was my ability of being extremely good at debates. My father started telling me from an early age that I was destined to be a lawyer because of my ability to throw out arguments and mess up other people's arguments and stay cool no matter how hard or tough the debate would get. All the way throughout high school and into early part of my college days, I always signed up for debate team and debate classes. I enjoy dominating the other person on the verbal battlefield. I enjoy uh, using logic as my weapon and using aggravation as my tool. I debated like I was destined to be a politician. I would tear apart the other person's character, tear apart their family background, tear apart their credibility, just to show that they didn't know what they were talking about. I was vicious and I was not very nice. One day, I believe this was when I was in grade 11, my father came to witness one of my debates, during which I again totally demolished the opposition. Uh, I made the other side so angry that they wanted to rush to my end of the debate table and do physical harm to me. I even made some of them cry. After we got home that day, my father said to me, he said, "Come and sit beside me. I want to talk to you about something." I was still on cloud nine, and I was there. I was so giddy from my victory. And I said, "Dad, did you like that? Like, did you see how angry I met the other side? That was awesome. That was so exciting." My dad said to me, my dad said, "That is precisely what I want to speak to you about. I want to tell you something that I want you to remember. Maybe you won't understand it now, but that's okay. But I want to tell it to you, so maybe one day you will realize how important this is." And my dad said to me, "Always remember, it doesn't matter if you win the battle or the war. It doesn't matter if you achieve victory, if you end up looking like the bad guy. If you can lose and look like the good guy versus you win and end up looking like the bad guy, I'd rather you choose to lose and look like the good guy, look like the martyr, rather than be that person who wins and be the person who no one else likes. It took me several years before I started to slowly understand what my father was trying to say to me. For us, for me as a blind person to get along in this world, it really doesn't matter if I'm the best, but I really need to be the best liked. If I go into this society thinking that all I have to do is win, 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 and win, be the best at everything I do, and I don't have to be a nice person, I will never get anywhere. But if I can pull back a little bit from being an overachieving, unbearable person and actually work on being a nice person, then it is perfectly possible to be mediocre and still reach a high position in life just because you make a lot of friends and you make the right friends, right connection in the right places. That was the first of the three most valuable lessons my father ever taught me. When I was younger, I had a really big pet peeve, and I believe a lot of people who are disabled share that. I hated my disability. I felt ashamed by my disability. Not that I felt ashamed to be blind, but I felt ashamed when other people acknowledged that I was blind. Being a blind musician was horrible. Being a blind martial artist was atrocious. I did not want to be associated with the word blind when it came to my achievement. I wanted to be Johnny Tiger the musician, Johnny Tiger the martial artist, Johnny Tiger the game designer, Johnny Tiger the poet, Johnny Tiger the artist. I didn't want to be known as Johnny Tiger, the blind martial artist, Johnny Tiger, the blind musician. And I spent a lot of my late teen and early adulthood really struggling with this because it seemed like every single time I accomplished something, every single time I got on the news or in the newspaper or got reported on some article on the internet or got interviewed on some radio program, I couldn't escape the blind word. Everyone had to introduce me as the blind blah blah blah. One day, while having a relatively sane conversation with my father, and if you know my father, you would know how rare those moments can be. So during this relatively sane and humane conversation, I expressed to my father how I hated this. I expressed how frustrated I was. No matter what I did, I couldn't shake the blind word, the identity of being blind or partially deaf. My father then said to me, he asked me, my father asked me, so are you faking your blindness? I said, no, of course not. Why would I do that? That would be crazy. My dad said, so did you choose to be blind? I said, no, of course not. That's just as crazy. And my dad said, can you do something that would make you not blind? I said, not that I know of. And then he said, so you didn't choose this, you can't do anything about it, and you're not faking it. So are you going to just let it make you feel bad for the rest of your life, or are you going to use it to your advantage and let it become part of you? Rather than feeling bad about it, find a way to use it as a tool. A lot of us don't have the luxury of using something that unique as a tool. So since you can't do anything about it, you can't get rid of it, you might as well learn to use it and live with it. Again, it took me years before I came to terms with what he was telling me. But once I understood what he was saying, it's like a big rock lifting off my shoulder because he's right. People who are tall use their being tall, being a basketball player. People who can throw hard punches use that ability to become boxers. People who have good uh, math skills can become accountants. They use it. They don't sit there and begrudge, oh, how come I'm born so tall? And that's so awkward. I hate being known as the tall basketball player. People don't do that. So why should I do that just because I'm blind? Why can't I embrace the role? Yes, I am Johnny Tiger, the blind martial artist. And you know what? Blind martial artists are really, really, really cool. How many people can claim to be a blind martial artist? And on top of that, an extremely good blind martial artist. Yes, I'm not going to bother with being too humble here. I am Johnny Tiger, the blind martial artist. Extremely good blind martial artist. And I'm proud of it. Because I know if I wasn't blind, then the fact of me being a good martial artist wouldn't be half as cool as me being a really good blind martial artist. And the same applies to almost everything I do. Everything I do is extra cool, is extra awesome, because hey, I'm doing it without using my eyes. How cool is that? Perhaps it's because I grew up in a very violent family. My father was, well, to put it bluntly, my father was a bit of a violent psychopath, and he was extremely abusive, both by language and by physical violence. So I grew up hearing, witnessing my father doing that to a lot of people. So from an early age, I vowed not to turn into him. So from a young adulthood, I started to train myself to not be aggressive, not be loud, not be angry. But one day, when me and my best friend Kevin were trying to tend to some government business, I think it was something to do with one of his insurance thing that the government agent was giving us a wild goose chase, giving us a runaround, and because we were both young, we were both in our early 20s, they didn't take us seriously. And I remember when we took a break for lunch, Kevin said to me, he said, "Ah, man, I don't get it. How come guys like your father make this seem so easy? Too bad you're not like your dad, otherwise we'd get a result by now." And that made the light bulb going. on in my head. Yeah, he's right. What is it that my dad did, that my dad still do today, that make so many things possible for him when for other people it seems impossible? You want to hear how crazy things are when with regarding to how my dad can get things done. I remember right after the September 11th terrorist attack, uh, my father was traveling through Hong Kong. He had to fly back to Taiwan from Canada, and he stopped at the Hong Kong airport. And at that time, security was through the roof. They wouldn't even allow you to bring a fountain pen onto the airplane. My father has always been a very vain kind of guy. So he had an entire manicure kit in his suitcase or in his carry-on. This has scissors and trimmers and nail files and different blades in it so he could work on his nail. He was very, very vain about his nail and about his, well, everything about himself. Obviously, because of the added security at the airport, my father got stuck going through trying to clear his carry-on. And the custom agent informed him that he was not going to be allowed to bring his manicure kit onto the plane, that he would either have to ditch it or pay them a lot of money for them to send it back to his residence. For your information, this wasn't a cheap manicure kit. This kit would have cost at least a couple $100 US at the time. It was not cheap. I won't go into too much detail, but I will say by raising his voice and doing something that they totally
Hey, Johnny.
didn't expect him to do.
Johnny?
Yes?
Oh, sorry. Are you, let me know when you're done with the dryer. I mean the washer.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that. That was a neighbor. Um, since we are this far into the video, I'm not going to redo this because, yeah, no, it's quite lengthy already. So anyway, I'm not going to go into much of the detail, but suffice to say, my father was able to not only let them uh, allow him to keep the manicure kit on the plane, he was able to make the Cantonese airport security pay him a small amount of money just to get him out of there without causing a fuss. Now, a lot of the us, the normal people, wouldn't be able to achieve that effect. And he's been able to pull that off again and again in his lifetime. So after Kevin mentioned to me that if I were like my dad, we could have gotten things done so much easier, I started paying attention to what my father would do whenever I was hit with a situation dealing with bureaucracy, dealing with um, uh, 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 store clerks, dealing with cable companies and financial agents. I asked myself how my dad would act. But even then, that wasn't quite good enough for me because I didn't know his secret. To me, my dad just seemed angry all the time. And I knew there got to be more to that. You can't just raise your voice and break something all the time because then you get thrown in jail. One day, during a conversation during which my father was giving me some a lecture about how to handle business, how to handle daily interaction. My dad finally gave me the final piece of that puzzle that I was looking for. The secret to his ability of getting things done. My dad said to me, he said, "You know what your problem is?" Now, usually when I hear that, it's when I stop listening because my dad always is very fond of telling me what my problem was. But lucky for me, I actually listened this time. My father said, "You know what your problem is? Is you're not angry enough." He said, people, especially modern people, are programmed to back down when someone actually gets angry. But you can't just be a crazy person. You can't just be angry all the time. You need to know when to let it out, when to ring it in. When you think that your purpose is righteous, when you know that right is on your side, then go ahead, be angry. But once you achieve that purpose, ring that anger in and be reasonable. For example, if you go to the store and you are mistreated by a clerk, and you know that right is on your side, you didn't do anything wrong, then go ahead, get loud, smash your hand down on the table, and scream at the top of your lung to see their manager. But when the manager come out, then you want to put that anger away and be reasonable because the manager didn't do anything to you. If when the manager come out, you still yell at them and you are raging, then they're not going to be sympathetic toward you. But if the manager come out and you calm down and you tell them why you were so angry, then the manager will make everything right for you. Right there was the final piece of the puzzle. My dad just handed me the key of how to be able to solve a lot of problems in my daily life. Don't be scared to let that anger out, but have control of that anger, know when to let it out, and know when to ring it in. And I kid you not, ever since that day, ever since I started doing that, I've been able to get so much more done, so much more easily than the first 25 years of my life. So, what are some of the most valuable lessons that your parents have taught you? Leave them in the comments so we can all share and learn. Thank you for checking out today's Soul Search Sunday. We'll be back again tomorrow for Music Monday. For now, have a good night. I'll see you guys tomorrow.